Hey everyone, welcome to day 3 of our craft time at day camps. Today we have a craft that might look a little bit funny when you look at the materials because we have a bunch of objects that seem to have no use apart from throwing away. We have this aluminum can, we have a Kleenex box, and we have that mason jar lid that we saved from yesterday's craft when we made the lantern. Today we learned about Paul in our lesson in the morning class. Before Paul, he was known as Saul. And what we learned in that was that God took Saul, who was against Christians, and made him into someone who loved Jesus and who spread the gospel and was for Christians and for God. So the point of today's craft is seeing that when God takes us, we are his enemies, and we really do deserve to simply be thrown out like these things. But because of God's great love for us, he takes us where we're at and he makes us into beautiful instruments that can be used to spread his gospel as we follow Jesus and make that decision to follow after him. So we're going to be making 3 different instruments today to show that God makes us into his instruments when he fills us with his Holy Spirit as we follow Jesus. We'll be making this very interesting guitar, and we'll be making this spin drum. And we'll also be making this other drum that I deconstructed, but you'll hear what it sounds like once we make it again. Let's start off with the guitar. So the supplies you'll need for the guitar are an old Kleenex box that is emptied, some decorative tape, an assortment of stickers, 4 large elastic bands that can fit over the Kleenex box, some medium-sized pom-poms, such as these, and some smaller pom-poms could also work as well. At least 4 popsicle sticks, though I took an assortment of colors so I can choose which ones I want. Construction paper of any color, and either 2 toilet paper rolls or 1 long paper towel roll. And our handy glue gun and glue gun sticks. So, with that, let's get started on the craft. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is take your Kleenex box and take out this plasticky part that's inside of it. So if you come underneath that area, you can feel your way along and peel it out. This is going to be the body of your guitar. And if you rip a bit of cardboard off with it, that's okay as long as it's not the entire thing. So once you get to this step, you can choose either to paint the box if it's a color that you don't like, or if there's, for example, a logo on the back that you don't want to see, or you can choose to keep it the way that it is if you like the design or if you don't really mind the fact that there's a logo on the back. I'm going to keep mine the way that it is. This one that I made before, I painted green, and it took a couple of layers to get the green that I wanted, and you can still see the design through. So you'll want to make sure that you have time to let it dry before you carry on with the rest of the craft. And it might take a little while. So just keep that in mind if you decide to paint it, that it might not be a 1-day craft, but it might be a 2-day craft. Okay, so while our glue gun is heating up, we're going to take one of the rolls and on the bottom draw a circle around, because we're going to cut little slats to help us glue this roll onto the tissue paper box. About like that. And if you want to draw some lines down here to help guide you, and they can also be less spacious than this, it might help if they are, and that'll give more surface area for the glue to stick to hold this more firmly in place. So carefully with your scissor, just cut up that line and stop at the little circle that you drew. Right, now if you fold them out, you can get that ready for when we glue it onto our Kleenex box. So now that we have this base ready, and our glue gun is quite heated, we can glue these 2 toilet paper rolls together. So you want to take your glue gun and put a circle of glue along this upper rim of this toilet paper roll, and hold them together. And you can glue around the outside. And this is all going to be covered by construction paper, so it's okay if it looks a little bit messy to you. So once that's dry, you can see how much construction paper you'll need to cover this handle of the guitar. And you can mark where the top of this is. And I'm going to fold down this section so I know where to cut off the extra paper. You see our line is right there, so we're gonna cut off that extra paper so we can wrap it quite easily. And with your scissors, you can cut all that extra off. So now what we're going to do is put some glue on one side of this toilet paper roll up to the bottom, but don't cover the flaps because we need those to be showing so we can stick those to a Kleenex box. And we're going to carefully glue that down on the paper. And if a bit of this edge is sticking up, you can put a bit of glue under there. Push that down so that it sticks. And then you simply wrap it around, and you can glue as you go as well to keep it in place. I like to do that just because it helps make sure the paper is nice and tight. Wrap it around until you've reached the end and put a nice line of glue down that length of paper. And let it dry. And then you have the neck of the guitar. So now that we have this neck ready to go, and you see our flaps are still very open on the bottom, we can take our Kleenex box, and up at the top, in this circular area, that's what we're going to put the neck of our guitar. So we'll glue each of these flaps with a bit of glue. Press it down so it sticks nice and firmly. And that's what your guitar should look like so far. Next, we're going to put on our popsicle sticks. So what these are going to do, they're going to lift the elastic bands off the body of the guitar. So we are going to stack 2 popsicle sticks, one at the top and one at the bottom. And again, these can be any color that you want. I'm going to use this blue color because I do quite like blue and it goes with the rest of the neck. And we're going to glue these popsicle sticks together before we glue them onto the guitar. A nice line of glue down the length of that stick. And then we'll seal them together. And we'll do the same for the one on the bottom. And then once we have these glued down, we can glue the color you don't want facing up. And stick one on the top of the guitar there, and the other you can stick on the bottom. So before we add the strings, we're going to decorate the neck of the guitar with pom-poms and tape and stickers. I'm going to use these bright green pom-poms for the tuning pegs, and we're going to put 4 on each side. And you can put 6 if you want to. I'm only going to put 4 because of space. Normally guitars have 3 on each side. But again, if you want to make it like a smaller little thing or like a ukulele, you can have 2 on each side. It's up to you how you want it to look. And I do actually have 6 of these green guys, so maybe I will put 6. And now you can simply decorate. So I have all these interesting looking shiny things, and I'm going to use this one. I'm going to tape it around, let's say here. Jesus, take my own. Final step is putting on the strings. And I found that different strings in different positions make different sounds. So you're going to want to have strings that are relatively large. And they're probably not going to sound like a guitar, but they're going to sound like something. So I found it best to put one string on the left side and put all the other strings on the right side and make them all kind of tucked towards the center. Well, let's see what this sounds like. And this is part of the fun, is just seeing what the sounds sound like when you put the strings in different places. Now here's the third string. And most guitars have 6 strings, but I'm only putting 4 on this. If you want to put more on, feel free. Again, it's all part of playing around with what it sounds like and what it looks like. That's part of the fun. So we're gonna see what this sounds like. So the closer, if you move them around on like closer to the center, closer to the end, or if you tighten them, they'll sound a little bit different each time. And there you have your guitar. All right, so now that we've finished the guitar, we're gonna move on to the drums. We're gonna start with the easier drum, and what you need for this is an old aluminum can of any size. And if you want, you can get a couple of them of different sizes just to see how things sound differently when you have different space to work with within the can. You're going to want a balloon, or as many balloons as to cover how many cans you have, and a wooden straw, 2 pom-poms, and these will make the drum stick, scissors, and hot glue. So let's start making our drum. So if your glue stick isn't plugged in yet, you'll want to plug this in, because first we'll be making the drum and we'll need the glue for the drumsticks. So to make the drum, it's really quite simple. You take your balloon, and at the very base of it here, you cut a hole in the balloon. And you might have to cut it a little bit bigger. It depends on how it fits over your aluminum can, but I'm going to try with this size of balloon. Stretch the balloon over the can and pull it nice and tight. And sometimes it has this funny little blip at the top, and that's okay. You just want it as tight as you can. And do be careful while you're doing this, because the can might be sharp. So just make sure that you're not anywhere where you could be cut by that can. And that is as simple as it is to make the drum. With the drumsticks, your glue gun might not be heated up quite to the heat yet. I've had it plugged in the entire time. So you might want to wait a few more minutes, or you'll need to wait a few more minutes if it's not hot. But once it is hot, you'll simply cut the straw in half to make sort of the same size of sticks, and put some glue on the top of one side. Take a pom-pom and stick it right on top. And you'll do the same for the other side. And once these have dried, you have your very own drum. And it's very soft, but it has a very nice noise. And you can see, well, it kind of makes the same noise with either end. And so experiment with different sizes of aluminum cans if you have them, to see if it makes a different sound if you have a shorter one or a taller one or a wider one. And that is our drum. So for the spin drum, we will need the mason jar lid that we took off the can yesterday. And we'll also want this little inside lid so that we can trace it onto the cardboard to make the places where the beads will hit. We'll want 2 wooden beads, some cardboard, another paper straw, a pen or a pencil, scissors, string, and hot glue. So let's get on to making the craft. So the first step is to make these surfaces that the beads will hit against. We're going to trace out different things onto our cardboard. So thankfully we have some handy stencils already provided for us by the lid of our mason jar. We're going to trace around this circle, and we're going to trace around this outer circle. And once you have these circles drawn out, we'll cut them out. So they should fit nicely inside and nicely on top. And we'll glue these into place now. So make sure that the side that you want showing is faced down like that. when you glue it. So we'll glue around the edge of the side you want to show. Or you can glue inside the lid, whichever seems to be easier to you. There we go. That's the surface of the drum. So now we're going to attach the handle to the drum. Take some glue, glue the top of the straw, and put that anywhere around your lid. And you'll need to hold it in there for a little bit until it's dry, otherwise it's going to slip around. Once it's dry, if it's weak, you can put some more hot glue around it, but we'll see how it holds up. I'm going to put a little bit more glue around it just to make sure that it stays. This has to be the strongest part of our drum because it's what we're going to be spinning. So as that's drying, we'll tie some string onto the beads. So take your bead and thread your string through and tie a knot around the bead. And you'll want to double knot this to make sure the bead won't fly off when you spin the drum. Okay, there's one. We're not sure how long it's going to be yet, so you can just cut a generous amount so you can thread the next one. And there's the second. To see how long you want this string to be, measure from the middle of the drum to the outside there, because we want it to swing back and forth from one side to the other. We don't want it too long or it won't hit at the proper place. So if it's a bit off center, that's okay as well. And then we simply put some glue down and let that dry. And you can also cut off the extra string as you're waiting for it to dry, which will make it look a little bit tidier. The nice thing then is that you can measure the other string with this string and glue that down on the other side as well. So you see it hits in that center area. That's where you want it to be. And cut that string. And now you let it dry. So once it's dry, if you wanted to, you could decorate the outside with decorative tape, just like we used on the drum. You want to make sure though that the threads are, well, a nice, very nice length because it's going to cover some of it up. You could put stickers on it, or you can just leave your drum as it looks right now. Let's see what it sounds like. So that's a thing to experiment with too, if you have more lids, to see what different cardboards sound like as well, and to see what different widths of lid might do to your drum. So that is your spin drum. And there we have it. Our instruments, our guitar, our drum, and our fantastic spin drum. So like we learned today, God takes us when we are his enemies, and he calls us to follow him by trusting in Jesus. And when we trust in Jesus, he fills us with his Holy Spirit, and he makes us new instruments that can be used for his glory to proclaim his goodness and his gospel to the world. So just like God has called us to go out and share the gospel with others by doing this alongside other Christians, we challenge you to go see if you can make a song with some of your friends using the instruments that you've made. And think of other ways that you can make instruments with things that you find around your house, because it's cool to see the things that you can make with just a couple pieces of cardboard, some glue, and your imagination. We'll see you tomorrow.